Today's daf we're going to be learning is Bava Batra Daf Nun Aleph. We're going to get started at the Gufa at the bottom of Nun Amud Bet. So Amar Rav, we saw yesterday that Rav says you can't create a chazaka on property that a woman owns, a married woman, because the assumption is she didn't protest because she assumed her husband would, because he's the one who gets the produce, the proceeds. But the Dayanei Gola, okay, the Dayanim in the exile, which actually is really a reference, according to the Rashbam, based on a Gemara in Sanhedrin, to Shmuel and Karna, they held you can create a chazaka. Okay, they seem to think that no, the expectation is that the woman would protest. So if she didn't protest, you can create a chazaka. Rav, halacha kedayanei Gola. Rav holds that the halach is like the Dayanei Gola. Amrule Rav Kahana Rav Asi Rav. What Rav says the halacha is like Dayanei Gola. Rav Kahana says to Rav Kahana, Rav Asi say to Rav, Hadran Mar Mishmati. What, did you change your mind? Wait, didn't you just say no? Ein machzikim midachsei eshadish. Amar lehu mistabra amari k'de Rav Yosef. When I said I hold like Dayanei Gola, what I meant was the way Rav Yosef explained it in yesterday's stuff, which is you can be machzikim if the husband died. And right, someone started eating the produce in the husband's life, then the husband died, then the wife was the sole owner, and then he ate it for 3 years and she didn't protest. That's what I meant. I didn't mean I hold like Dayanei Gola in all cases. And then it basically doesn't contradict what Rav said at all. Now we're continuing to the next case in the Mishnah. The lowly isha b'nichsei ba'ala. Pshita. So the Gemara, so what does this mean? It means the woman cannot create a chazak on her husband's property. So the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Since she gets fed by the husband, mizone hu deka'achla. Can't you just assume she's eating her mizonot? In which case, that's why she took the stuff from the field, and that's why he didn't protest. If he said, go eat your produce from this field, and she ate in a different field, still it doesn't create a chazaka because we assume he doesn't mind which field she eats from, and therefore he's not complaining, is not because she bought the land. Now we're going to do the same thing we did with the previous case, which is assume that you can't create a woman can't create a chazak in her husband's property, but haraya yesh. But she could, if she had a shtar that proved it, she could say, oh, look, here's my shtar. I bought it from my husband. Now, also here, we're going to suggest, last time it was, aren't we worried that she just did it for nachat ruach purposes? Now we're going to say, aren't we concerned that maybe the husband sold her the property in a fictitious sale, and all he was really trying to do, you'll find this a little bit interesting or strange, maybe he's just trying to get her to take money out that she's hiding, and he wants to know where she's hiding her money. And why would he care where she's hiding her money? Well, the assumption is, remember, a woman, the husband has access to the proceeds of everything she owns. And so she doesn't really have her own money. And perhaps the money, he thinks that she stole his money and is hiding it somewhere. So, okay, you can see this kind of distrust relationship that could, again, it's not to say it always is, but aren't we concerned for that? That if a woman pulls out a shtar and says, hey, you sold me the land, maybe he only said, oh, I'm selling you the land so that she'd take out the money that she had in hiding and he didn't know where it was. She'd take out all this money to pay for the land. And then he'd see where the money was, and it was his own money anyway, or at least he should be getting proceeds from the money, and he would take that on account of the sale, but really for himself. And not really for a sale, wasn't really a sale. Therefore, the fact that we're not concerned with that, that's what the Gemara says, maybe it's just trying to reveal hidden money of hers. To which the Gemara says, Shmat mi now, we can infer from here the fact that we're not worried about that. Okay, it's actually really a question. Can we infer from here that someone who sells property to his wife is really a sale, and we're not concerned that he was just trying to do it to find where the hidden money is? No, you don't necessarily have to say that, because you could say, if we make this inference from our Mishnah, if she pulls out a shtar, it would be in a case where there is no money. What would that be? Bishtar matana. It would be in a shtar matana. If he gave her a shtar of a gift, that would work. Then she could sue, because you can't say I gave her a gift so she'd take her money out. She doesn't have to take any money out. So that for sure is not a case of giluye zuze, and therefore that wouldn't prove anything. This Mishnah wouldn't prove anything, the inference from our Mishnah about are we or are we not concerned, or that we're not concerned for it. Amalei Rav Nachman le Rav Huna. But Rav Nachman says to Rav Huna something different. So he starts off with this introduction to what he's about to say. Lo havamar gabam ba'oraita b'tchuma. You weren't last night in the Beit Midrash, b'tchum, like in our area, which means the Beit Midrash. Amrina milim al yata. We said something really important, and you missed it. Amarle. So Rav Huna says, obviously, it begged the question. My milim al yata amarite. What was this great thing that you said in the Beit Midrash yesterday? So comes Rav Nachman, says this big important thing. Hamocher sadeh l'ishto kanta. If you sell your field to your wife, she acquires it. And we don't say, oh, he was just trying to find her money, okay, against what we said earlier, what we seem to suggest that perhaps this was the way, this was a concern. Amarle, to which Rav Huna says, instead of saying, oh, I don't agree with you, we should be concerned with this, no, he says, not only that, pshita, it's so obvious, because if he sold her a field and gave her a shtar, and she gave him money, we're not worried that the money was just, he was trying to get his own money back, because, and we say it's her own, well, he says, forget the money. You can neutralize the money. You can say the money's not even important in this picture, because in the end, she has a shtar. And what do we know? Milotnan, doesn't it say in the Mishnah that nechatzim sheyesh lam achrayut niknim bekesef b'shtar b'chazakah. This is the Mishnah in Kiddushin. We also come across it later in the Masechet that if you have land, it's acquired in three ways: money, a document, or chazakah. So basically, Rav Huna says what you're saying is so obvious. If she has a shtar, the money is irrelevant, and therefore the Gilui Zuzeh is not a relevant factor. In the end, she has a shtar. And since you can acquire land through a shtar, that should work. And that should be enough to say, of course she bought the land. Otherwise, why would he give her a shtar? So Amalei. So Rav Nachman now wants to prove why it's not so obvious. We're going to have a little bit of back and forth, so I want to keep you focused on where we're up to. Rav Nachman's going to say it's not so obvious from there, because that Mishnah, Amalei, V'lav Itmarla, wasn't it said about that Mishnah? And then therefore, it's not so obvious from your Mishnah. Amar Shmuel lo shanu ela b'shtar matana. Aval b'shtar mecher lo kana ad shitein damea. The whole issue of a shtar, you can be kona with a shtar land. That's only if you're giving a gift to someone. If you want to give someone land, you give them a shtar, and that's acquired. It's acquired. If I'm selling you a house or a land, and you didn't give me any money for it, but I gave you a document, of course you don't acquire it with the document. You need to pay me money. I'm not willing to give up my property just by writing a document without getting any money. If I'm expecting to get money, then I have to get money for the kinyan to be effective. That's why the money is a factor. And that's why there's the chidush, because you might have thought he was just trying to get his money back and the whole thing was fictitious. The shtar in itself wouldn't be valid. But Rav Huna wants to knock out this issue of Rav Nachman. In the end, we're not going to accept Rav Huna's question. But Rav Huna is going to say, you, Rav Nachman, are trying to disprove it's obvious from Shmuel. But Lav Motiv Lav Rav Hamnuna, didn't Rav Hamnuna raise an objection to Shmuel with the following source? Bishtar Ketzad. How does it work with shtar? Katav lo al aniyah or al acheres. Af al pi she'en bo shefa pruta, sadi mechura lecha, sadi knuya lecha, rezo mechura u'mituna. How do you do a shtar? You write it on a piece of paper or on a shard, an earthenware shard. And even though it's not worth anything, the shard or the paper, but you write on it, my field is sold to you, my field is acquired to you, that's sold and done. And what do you see here? Without the money, and it's a sale, not a gift, it works. So that would disprove what Rav Nachman just brought to knock out Rav Huna, and Rav Huna would be back with this question. It's obvious. To which Rav Nachman answered, don't question me with that, because lav hu motiv lav hu mafarikla. Wasn't that a case where Rav Hamnuna brought that objection, but then answered it right away? And here are two answers we're going to bring. One is Rav Hamnuna's answer, and one is Rav Ashi's answer, which is going to basically return us back to the fact that Rav Nachman says it wasn't so obvious what you thought was obvious, Rav Huna. And again, this is a big halacha that we're saying, that a woman can, who someone sells land to his wife, we're not worried about the Gilui Zuzeh, and the sale is a good sale. So here we're going to explain the difficulty, right? In other words, how could it be that shtar, it says it's a sale, and it works even without the money, when in the end, Rav Nachman is trying to say only if you give money does the shtar work. The shtar by itself wouldn't work. We're going to give two possible answers there. One is if you're selling the land because you want to get rid of it, the land is bad and you're just so dying to get rid of it, then you're willing to acquire it b'shtar, even without money being passed down. Or Rav Ashi Amar b'matana. He wanted to give it to him as a gift, but he wrote Sadi Mechor L'cha. In other words, it is a gift, this case. The Mishnah, when it talks about shtar, how do you acquire with a shtar? That's a gift, and it's given as a gift in the language of a sale, just so that the person could really claim strong ownership rights to it. But it really wasn't talking about a sale, even though it seems to be talking about a sale. So what we've done here, again, is Rav Nachman said to Rav Huna, we learned this great halacha, someone who sells field to his wife, she acquires it, and we don't say the Gilu Yezuzeh. Rav Huna tried to say it's totally obvious because the money's obviously not important because you could do it with a shtar, and then he answers, no, you can't do it with a shtar alone. If you're really buying something or selling something, there's no kinyan until you give the money, except for in rare circumstances, right? Either a gift, but there's no money, obviously then the shtar would work, or if you're selling it because you want to get rid of the land. But normal sale of land wouldn't work that way. Meitive. Now we're going to bring a difficulty against Rav Nachman. If you borrow money from your slave and then you free your slave, you borrow from a woman and then you free her. Now, both those cases, the woman's money goes straight to the husband, then the slave's money goes straight to the husband also. But if somehow they have money and they loaned it to them, and then they sever the relationship, freed slave or divorced woman, they can't demand any of that money. It sounds a bit like a crazy halacha. And comes the Gemara and assumes what must be the reason. My time, is this not because why did the husband borrow money from them? Because he was really trying to get his own money out of them, or money that he had rights to the produce of. And therefore, it wasn't really a loan, and that's why they can't collect it. No, to which, and then that would go against Rav Nachman, who doesn't think we're worried about that concern. No, there it's different because the reason we assume it wasn't a real loan is because there's no way a husband would have okay, let's just talk about the relationship Lova Malva. A Lova is always indebted to the Malva, and the husband wouldn't create a situation where he's indebted to his wife or to his slave. Okay, it's a little hard. We're putting a wife in the category of a slave. Again, you have to try to understand it in a historical context of the way things were in those days, especially if he was the one who had the money and not her. So there's no way he would have done that. Okay. One second. Right. And that's why you can say, the Rashbam says, and therefore, Giluye Zuzu Dubai comes into play here, but not necessarily in all cases. It's just unlikely that a man would actually borrow money from his wife or would borrow money from his slave. Rav Huna bar Avin. Now, Shalach Rav Huna bar Avin. He now sends the following halacha. Hamocher sadeh liishto kanta uba lochel pirot. If you sell a field to your wife, she acquires it, okay, meaning we're not worried about the Giluye Zuze, but he still eats payroll because anything that goes to her, he has access to, right? The proceeds of while they're married. Biram, however, Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Abba, v'chol gdolei ador amru b'matana bikesh litnola. Really, if he sells it, he doesn't really mean it's a sale, he means it as a gift. And if he's gifting it to her, okay, lama katav la b'l'shum mecher, why do you say selling? Kedei liapot et kolcha, to give her more than what she would have had otherwise. And what he's really doing is, they think that he's actually giving her the rights to the payroll as well. That's the whole point. He's giving her more than what she would have gotten otherwise. And therefore, he's giving her rights to the payroll, even the payroll. Not just as the goof of it hers, also the payroll to hers while she's married. It's a way of him overriding the fact that he always has access to her stuff. No, this is a way to do it. And even she can have access to all the proceeds. Meitive. Now we're going to ask a question against this Rav Huna bar Avin. And it's the same question we asked before. So Rav Huna bar Avin is in essence saying the same thing as Rav Nachman. We're not worried about L'Gilu Yezuzeh. To which we ask again, Lavamina Evev v'Shecharom and Aisha v'Gersha ein lahem alav klum. My time alav mishum damrina L'Gilu Yezuzu debai. Right? If you borrow from your Evan and free, borrow from your wife and divorce her, then right, you don't have to pay anything back. Why? Because we assumed you were just trying to get money that they were hiding. Shane hatam, again, this is not a question because that's different because lo l'shavi inish eved lo v'lishma, we make assumptions about people. There's no way a man would have really taken a loan from his wife and put himself in that position or from his slave. Therefore, it must be he was really, in this case, trying to get money out of them, but a sale wouldn't be the same. Right? A sale doesn't have that relationship. Right? Someone who buys and sells, there's no relationship of one being subjugated to the other. Now we have a psak of Rav. Rav Amarav, Hamocher Sadeh Lishto Kanta Babal Ochel Perot, just like Huna bar Avin. Husband acquires it, but the wife acquires it, but it's a real sale. We don't say L'Gilu Yezuzeh, but the husband can eat payroll. B'matana Kanta ve'ena Babal Ochel Perot. But in a gift, like Rabbi Abba had said and Rabbi Avau, she acquires it and he doesn't get payroll. Rabbi Elazar Amar, Rabbi Elazar thinks even in a sale, he doesn't get the payroll. She gets to eat the payroll. So, Abid Rav Chisda Uvadik Rabbi Elazar. Rav Chisda holds like Rabbi Elazar, rules based on that, and allows the husband, allows the wife to eat the proceeds, even in a sale. Rabban Uchba, Rabban Nachman, Bnei Binte de Rab, the grandsons of Rab, come over and say, Le Rav Chisda, Shavit Marav Rabbi Va'avi Kazutre. You're taking Rabbi Elazar, who was a student of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan was of the same generation as Rab, but his student, you're accepting the student of Rabbi Yochanan in place of Rab? How could that be that you would leave some important rabbi and paskin against him by going by some smaller rabbi? Amar lahu. So Rav Chisda answers, I hold like great rabbis as well. Rabin came from Israel and told us that Rabbi Yochanan said the same thing. And I hold like Rabbi Yochanan, and that's okay, because he's at the same level as Rab, or close to, even though he treated Rab as a teacher also, but he's basically like a student colleague type thing. Amar Rav. Hilchata, again, we get a psak. Rabbi says something that doesn't really make a lot of sense. The Gemara is going to have to figure it out. Hamocher sadeh lishto, you sell a field to your wife, lo kanta, she doesn't acquire it. V'habal ochel perot. Now, habal ochel perot means the husband gets the proceeds, but she owns the land. But we just said she doesn't buy it, so it doesn't make sense. Hold off for 1 minute. But b'matana, in a gift, kanta ve'en habal ochel perot. In a gift, if he gives her something, she acquires it completely, he doesn't even get any payroll. So the Gemara says, Tarte, how could you say two of those things in one sentence? She doesn't acquire it, but the husband eats the proceeds, which means she actually did acquire the object, the land itself. So lo kasha. We're going to say these are two different cases. Kam b'ma'ot tmunim, kam b'ma'ot she'ein tmunim. If it was hidden money, then we assume she doesn't acquire it. That's the lo kanta, because he was just trying to get the money. But if it was money that he knew where it was and it wasn't hidden, and he sold it to her, then when she gives him the money, obviously she acquires it. And then, but again, according to this psak, she acquires it according to Rava. But like Rav said, since it's a sale, the husband still gets the proceeds. Only in a gift, it wouldn't be the case. And how do we know that this is the case? To Amar Rav Yehuda, that we can distinguish between hidden money and not hidden money. Ma'ot tmunim lo kanta, ma'ot she'inam tmunim kanta. If they were hidden, she doesn't acquire it. If they weren't hidden, she does acquire it. Tanu Rabbanan. End of daf. We're going to start a braita. We're going to talk about another lack of distrust between husband and wife. We don't, if a woman comes to loman anashim, loman avadim, loman atinokot, a woman, a slave, or a young child comes and asks you to watch something for them, we're concerned that they stole it from their house, from their master, from their father, from their husband, and they're just trying to get it hidden so they don't see. So they're asking you to watch it. And if you watch it for them, you're basically helping someone to hide something that they're sinning about. Now, we don't know for sure, but you basically shouldn't get yourself into this situation because maybe that's what's going on. Kibel min aisha, but what if you did get it? Yachzir laisha, you returned it to her. We're not so suspect of every woman that we're going to say, oh, well, I'm going to give it back to her husband because she probably stole it from him. No, you can give it back to her. Ve'meta, but if she died, yachzir leba'ala, and that's because the husband gets it back because he already inherits her. So even if it was her own, it would be his, and if she stole it from him, it would be his. Either which way, it would be his. Kibel min ha'eved yachzir la'eved. If you got it from a slave, again, give it to the slave. But imet yachzir l'rabo. But if the slave died, then it goes to the master because the master would inherit. Okay, that's it for today's daf. We'll continue that braita tomorrow. What we mainly dealt with today is the issue of a woman and her husband's possession. Can she claim that he sold it to her? And basically, we say she can, but why aren't we concerned for maybe the money was hidden, and then we said maybe it's only in a gift, maybe it isn't a sale, right? Are we concerned that he's just trying to find money that she was hiding or not? That was the main topic, and from there we got off on all sorts of things about it. We're going to end here for today, wishing everyone a great day.